Talent Scout.
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Hello friends, welcome back to Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher. I'm an art educator with a master's degree in education, trying to bring you the best in art history. As always, these videos are intended for those 13 years of age and older, and I encourage anyone to like, share, and subscribe these videos if you are compelled to do so.
Boy, I sure am bushed. Have you had enough yet, sir? What do you mean, bushed?
Now, typically on Art 101, I'm telling the stories of famous artists, beloved artists from around the world that we all know and love. Today, I'm going to get into an artist that's a little bit more obscure and a little bit more about family.
Welcome to the Dysfunctional Home Show.
Alright, so let me explain this. So, there's an artist in Germany by the name of Margarete Steiff, and her art requires some production. And so in her factory production line, there was a family tree because family was very important to her. And so on this list is a bunch of names, and you go to the last row. And on that last row is the name of a gentleman that is my great-great-great-great, four greats, grandfather. Now, I don't know exactly how that makes me related to her, but that definitely makes me related to her. And so I'm going to tell the story of Margarete Steiff, a family member of mine, not because she's a family member of mine, but because her story needs to be known to everybody.
It doesn't matter if people think you're crazy, you know. Painters are noted for being a little weird anyway. We can get away with things like that.
Margarete Steiff was a seamstress who in 1880 founded her own company that would revolutionize the way we view the stuffed animal. She was born in a relatively small town in Germany, the daughter of a building contractor and his wife. At 18 months of age, she had a high fever that caused some leg paralysis and large motor skill difficulty in her arms. After 3 years of struggle, doctors finally diagnosed her with polio disease. She always exhibited a joyful temperament, a positive outlook, and a high charisma that really brought people together. And even as a young child, she was the ringleader and ringmaster of all of the games and activities going on with all of the children around her neighborhood. And that spirit went with her as she would go on in her years. She would overcome her disabilities in becoming very skilled at needlework, as well as a very fine musician. She would save up her money and buy a sewing machine. She would be the first person ever to own their own sewing machine in their little town, and this would lead to great opportunities for her to earn more income. She would work making clothes, and in 1877, she was kind of known in the area for her creations of felt underskirts and things of that sort. She became so busy that she would employ other people to help her do the work. It was around this time that she came across a pattern for a very small elephant.
Good morning.
Elephants. Yes, I'm wearing my elephant tie. You thought it'd be a bear, but no. I'd pull the old switcheroo on you. Thank you, Roon, who got me the tie, former foreign exchange student. But yet here I am, wearing the elephant tie, and I digress. So let's get back to it. This would be an item where women of the time would put their needles into a soft, pillowy sort of device so they wouldn't get lost and were easily retrieved. But these cute little elephants became very beloved by children, and they became more of a toy than a pincushion. So she would begin to mass produce these with her employees. And it wasn't long before this idea of the stuffed animal elephant was expanded to other animals. She would develop a mouse, a rabbit, and other such animals. By 1897, Margarete's nephew would join the company, and Richard Steiff had previously studied art in Stuttgart, Germany, and he would begin to develop even more sketches for them to develop even more stuffed animals.
I invented the piano key necktie! I invented it!
When it came to mocking up these first toys, Margarete did all of the work herself. She wanted to come up with any problems that might arise in production. Now, when it comes to the teddy bear, they would create a series of dancing bears that began production between 1897 and 1899.
Louie, check the Junior Woodchuck guidebook!
Now that's a good call, keeping track of the timeline on this, because in 1902 they would design Bear 55 PB, which is the first soft toy with movable joints, and would become known as the first teddy bear. By 1903, a large shipment of these toys was sent to New York, and that resulted in orders of over 3,000 bears to be brought back. Although they began with elephants being the hot commodity, Bear 55 PB became their best seller. Starting in 1906, the bear became known as the teddy bear, which was named after American President Theodore Roosevelt.
Some men are born great. Others have greatness thrust upon them.
You know, what do I know? I color for a living, but I know a little something about the connection between Teddy Roosevelt and the teddy bear. As the story goes, President Roosevelt was on a hunting trip in Mississippi, and they were having a rather hard time finding a bear for him to shoot. After a long day trying to hunt a bear down, he ends up going back to camp, and in the meantime, one of the hunting guide's dogs had sniffed out an old bear. Now, the dogs put up a pretty good fight with this old bear. As a matter of fact, one of them may have even been killed by the bear. But at any rate, the scout took the butt of his gun and smashed the bear in the head, and then tied a rope around its neck, tethering the bear to a tree. The other scouts went and retrieved President Roosevelt to go be able to kill this bear. Upon arrival, the president was kind of dismayed by the whole thing, and he thought it would be unsportsmanlike to shoot a bear that was tied to a tree. Now, there are some accounts that somebody in the party ended up killing the bear anyway, but the story of Roosevelt finding it unsportsmanlike to kill a bear tethered to a tree got out, and there was an editorial cartoonist that made a rendering of this story, only depicting it as a baby bear and not an old, gnarled up bear. And the humanitarian aspect of Roosevelt grew in popularity, and it wasn't long until others wanted to exploit the story for their own personal gains.
You're being cynical, Robin. To err is human, to forgive divine.
In terms of the teddy bear, there are two completely different stories of the origin. So the question is,
are you interested in the real story or just the patriotic crap they want you to believe?
Now, it is claimed that there was a toy maker in New York that had first made the teddy bears to sell into his candy store. According to lore, they did get permission from Roosevelt, but he really didn't care because he thought it was a silly idea anyway. The bears became so popular that they would found Ideal Toy Company. Now remember, this hunting expedition took place in 1902. The bears from Ideal were released in 1903. And by that point, the Steiff Company had already been making teddy bears for 3 years. But because the origin of the teddy bear is German and not American, we have buried the true history of our teddy bear to be an American story and not an international story, even though historically it definitely is.
Y'all don't have a fucking clue. Facebook shit, the internets, your shit isn't real.
At the time that Margarete Steiff and her company was making the initial bear concept, this was a time when bears were seen as vicious predators, not cuddly little cute things. But in our world today, it's kind of different. We have Winnie the Pooh and Paddington, the Cubs, Corduroy, Yogi.
The world would be better off if I was only as smart as the average bear.
Bears, 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 bears! Margarete Steiff passed away just before her 62nd birthday of pneumonia. Her legacy is one of great importance to female entrepreneurship. With her life in a small town that had very limited opportunities for a physically disabled woman, she would found and grow a business that continues to be recognized for excellence and prestige in the area of toy making around the world. Today, the Steiff product continues to be the most high quality in toy manufacturing in the world. Hey, as I promised, I tell you what, that's a great story.
Now you've had enough, bitch.